Hello and welcome back to the Villa Filler podcast. I'm here, as always, with my good friend Dan Wiseman. And I mean, it probably doesn't look like it. My hair looks like a bit of a mess, but we've had trims, Dan. The trims have been acquired. People have seen that in your preview the other day. I'm loving it, mate. I'm loving it, first of all.
I might just sit side on.
Yeah, do you know what? Podcasts are just better like this, aren't they, really? See the gradient. See if we can get a sponsorship as well. Actually, do you know what? This is a public service announcement to Luke Robinson. Can you cut our hair better than it's already cut? If it is,
asking the big questions now.
You know what, Luke? I hope you're watching this because you usually do. We should set up a podcast where Luke cuts our hair and we just talk about Villa. Yes. Yeah, I think we do that. I think that's we got to work that out. We got to work that out. But we've already digressed, Dad. That's got to be a record for how quick we've actually managed to digress. I've not even asked you how you are, mate. First of all, how are you doing, Dan?
Good, mate. Good. Feels like ages, doesn't it?
It does.
And oh my God, how much has changed since I saw you? I mean, the football landscape has been completely dismantled, reassembled in the time that we've been absent. I mean, I did a preview for this game, and it just got completely smothered by the avalanche of news that we had. I can't even be mad because, guys, that preview was not on any of our priority list that day. What's happened in the last sort of 72 hours has just been absolutely nuts, and it sort of felt a little bit weird today, didn't it? Just sort of settling back into the normal routine and just watching games and sort of trying to go on like nothing ever happened. And it made for a slightly bizarre experience, didn't it? But no, we sort of getting my Villa cap on and getting back into it was nice. It's been a long week and a half, hasn't it?
God, mate, it really has. It really has. The Super League, I feel, has probably aged us all more than we ever hoped for. And we've had two Super League candidates, two Super League members play today, one of which is the game that we're, of course, going to talk about, which is, of course, Aston Villa. Aston Villa. What I was about to say, are we away? Did I get that right? No, Aston Villa are home. Aston Villa 1, Manchester City 2. Sorry, guys, I'm a bit rusty. We've not done a podcast in a while. And as Dan said, there's been so many other things that have been on our minds recently, Dan. And do you know what? It was almost, I very much had this feeling, Dan, and to kind of digress slightly and just kind of touch on Super League and that kind of stuff. When you see this kind of news, right? When you see that these clubs are breaking away, when you see the leagues are going to get formed, when you see the plans, of course we're all outraged. Of course we're all, there's so many emotions that are going through our heads, right? Whether this game was even going to be played or not. But the only thing I could think was, man, if I was a Villa player and if I saw that news, you can guarantee if there was ever a match to put 150% in, it's this one. Against, the founding farmers of the Super League. I mean, we've kind of gathered that Manchester City were maybe pressured into that somewhat, but given the fact that these negotiations have been going on, Dan, for the best part of 10 years at least, I think it's fair to say they knew what they were getting themselves in for. However, one thing we didn't know we were getting ourselves in for, Dan, what a segue, by the way, John McGinn scoring after 21 seconds.
Yeah, it was good to see, wasn't it? It was good to see. That's only the second quickest goal that Man City have conceded in the Premier League, which I was disappointed with. I saw that going. I was like, "There's a record there somewhere, surely to God." I was like, "It's not going to be the fastest Premier League goal ever." I was like, "It's got to be." I think the fastest Premier League goal ever. Correct me in the comments. Is Begovic,
Miguel Almiron, wasn't it?
Is it?
I think it was. Yeah.
Wow, well, there we go. Don't need correcting in the comments because.
But please do anyway. I'm sure there's someone that's going to say Mane or Jesus Navas.
One of us is right. One of us is right. But so I was like, it's got to be the fastest goal scored against City, surely. And only the second quickest. John McGinn did it in 20. Alan Shearer for Newcastle in 2003 did it after 10 seconds.
Jesus.
So McGinn's goal looks positively laborious. The whole 10 seconds after that, which I was disappointed with. But it was good to see. A nice little record is building for John McGinn because it's something that we've both touched on this season, Dan, isn't it? That we felt that McGinn's goal contributions, mostly because of the positions that he's been playing, I don't want to attribute the blame to John, but because of the situations and the positions that Dean asks him to get involved with in the Villa side, means that he's a little bit more aggressive. But 4 of his 5 Premier League goals in the 2 seasons which he's played for Villa since we came up have been against the Big Six.
What's that? What is that, Dan? Tell me who they are.
He scored against Arsenal, Liverpool, Spurs, and Man City now. So he's building up quite a little portfolio of goals against big teams. So happy to see John get on the score sheet so early. And it was one of those where those sort of goals are what you have to capitalize on. You have to make most of those chances, because City didn't give us a sniff after that. And it just goes to show that when you do get those cracks, and look, City haven't been perfect at the back this season. They have, in terms of errors leading to shots, they rank quite highly. And this is something I did speak about in my preview. I can basically run you guys through what I spoke about, because I think only 500 of you ended up watching it. So for everyone, this was something I touched on in my preview. The City do have errors in that backline, believe it or not. And John Stones, as we've seen in his recent games against Villa, does live an error or 2 or 3, as he committed today. But yeah, you do have to capitalize on those, and it was good that Villa did. But then you are aware that, okay, we've still got to go 90 minutes now with a 1-0 lead.
Yeah.
And that's a long time to try and keep City out for. And it's not much of a surprise that we failed to do so, is it really?
No. And I think, you look at Villa this season, I feel like we really do actually have to split this season in half. Because the Villa that played up until December, that's a completely different team. That they're just not the same. They're not the same players. They're not the same. They're not doing the same. They're not exerting the same energies that is required on the pitch. Whether that is, through, I've seen a lot of people on the timeline criticising commitment. I don't necessarily think that's it. We're talking about, Super League sides. We're talking about Manchester City, the best team in Europe right now, in my humble opinion. A team that made 821 passes to Aston Villa's 317. A team that made, 762 of them were short passes. And it's, the meat is in the details here. 762 short passes, right, compared to Villa's 250. And then when you compare that to the long balls, Man City only played 40 throughout the whole game, right? Whereas Villa played 54 long balls, 54 long passes. That screams desperation. That's like a sixth of Villa's passes were hoofed balls, right? And, City have more than doubled the amount of passes Villa had. That's to be expected. I can't be mad at that. I'm not mad at that, just to be clear. I'm marveling at what I'm reading. I shouldn't be, because, Dan, we've been fairly close to Manchester City for a long time now, and we've seen a lot of Manchester City in the flesh. And in my opinion, at least, that 2017 team is the best team the Premier League has seen. But that's a debate for a whole other podcast, right? I ain't about to get into that right now, because we're talking about Aston Villa versus Manchester City. And I feel like, so again, to reference your preview, Dan, which you guys didn't watch, and that makes me really sad, because it was a really good preview. You referenced how Villa really needed to sort of compact the middle of the park, force the play wide, and we'd hope for these sort of crosses from Manchester City. In an ideal world, Mings, Konsa, they eat them up. We've seen them do that all season. That's fine. And I mean, we played narrow, but I don't think that was due to that wasn't tactical choice. That is a quality, I would say, we've seen in Villa, a side that are very scared of what Manchester City can do in the middle of the park. And more often than not, being as compact as we were, being as narrow as the defence was. And I'm singling out the defence, and that's not a criticism of the defence. They had to be, because the support wasn't there from the midfield. But to have consistently either Riyad Mahrez and Bernardo Silva on the right-hand flank, doubling up on Matt Targett, or to consistently have Phil Foden and Alexander Zinchenko against Matty Cash on the other side for the time he was on the pitch, of course. It's they create so much space, man. And again, I feel like I don't like. It's very easy to come on here and be like, "Oh, I expected us to lose." Blah blah blah. We're here to analyze the game. That's what we do. We're looking at the numbers, and also going by the eye test. That's what we like to do. But sometimes you just have to take your hat off. Villa, I know. Leeds. Who would have foreseen that a 10-man lead side would have beaten Manchester City? And rightfully so, Dan. That gave I gave everyone else, not everyone else, because there were plenty of people in the comments who actually did see saying we weren't going to get any of this. But it gives you optimism. And we just didn't see the levels of intensity that Leeds had on display at the Etihad the other day at Villa Park tonight, did we?
No, mate. And it was a little bit, I'm not going to say concerning, Dan, because we lost 2-1 at home to Manchester City, which is
of course.
Fair reflection. You can't expect, that's a fair showing. It shows the difference between the two sides. They are the champions elect. But we had a week and a half to prepare for this fixture. And that's probably, if you were going to get an extended period to prepare for any game in the Premier League this season, it would be that one against Manchester City, because it gives you the time to rest, gives you the time to regroup, gives you time to fully think out, put into plan, and then operate tactical choices and elements of your game, which you're going to use to try and counteract that Man City team. And on the one hand, I'm sort of torn between saying that, yeah, you're absolutely right in saying that Leeds game gave us hope, because it did, showing that they aren't this, I mean, invincible in the sort of loosest possible terms, that they are a nut that you can crack despite what they've seen for such a large proportion of this season. And it shows, it's literally a blueprint for Dean Smith and his staff, surely, because you go, right, let's look at that game, watch the tape. What did Leeds do well? We all know that nous that Bielsa has in those situations, and just emulate that tactical style. I don't think I saw the tactical game plan that I was quite expecting tonight. I mean, I'm not going to go too heavy on that, because the scoreline wasn't, if we're sitting here talking about a 3 or 4-0 loss, then it's completely different, isn't it? But we gave a fair account of ourselves, and we were just beaten by the better team. But on the other hand, when you see that Leeds defeat, you're almost going, I think I mentioned this to you off air, and it's like one of those things where you're like, there's almost a part of me that's glad that, not glad, I suppose, that Leeds won that game, because you're like, they're not going to lose 2 games in a row. If they'd won that game, you're like, okay, well, they're due a loss soon. It's like, well, it must be coming at some point, so it could be Villa. Whereas, like, because Leeds just won that game, it's like, realistically, they're probably not going to lose 2 games in a row. Pep won't let that happen.
They don't do that.
And he didn't. Mate, the way that they played with 10 men was ludicrous. You look at the average positions for this game, mate, and I'm sorry to take that one away from you, because it's
be my guest,
a staple of the Dan Morgan notes for a Villa Filler podcast. But it's only John Stones, who, to be fair, his average position is in his own half, because he only played about 30 minutes. But it's only him and Ruben Dias that their average position is actually in the Manchester City half. And this is a team that played the majority of the game with 10 men. Yep. Phil Foden is an obscene talent. He plays with a swagger. His first touch and his control baffles me. I've never seen anything like it from an English player, and I'm not going to wax lyrical about him for too long, because I know you guys in the comments don't like us doing that. I think it was
We're not allowed.
I think it was it ASM? It was someone like that. We a while ago now.
I think so, yeah.
We spent a bit too long dwelling on, and we got picked up on that. So I'm not going to spend it too long, but yeah, Phil Foden, excellent. What's interesting though is that Stones, that's only the 6th foul he's conceded in the league this season, which is that's pretty nuts, isn't it? For a centre back, it's only the 6th foul he's
for
given
John
away.
Stones. That's quite remarkable. And this,
exactly.
I'm a big John Stones advocate. Really nice guy, really good defender. Needs that experience next to him, or just a good defender next to him. In Diaz, he's proven that. You don't need the experience, but Stones always look better with company alongside him, not Otamendi, not necessarily Laporte, who, again, Laporte is a defender who I rate incredibly highly. Won't talk too much about that on here. But it's not surprising, Dan. It's not surprising. We have to talk about it. And I've got to say it now, so it's in the forefront of my mind, because, Dan, I feel like Ross Barkley has been so non-existent in so many Villa games that we just haven't spoke about him. And we've had a fair few people in the comments mention that. So this is a mental note. I'm going to mention Ross Barkley a bit later on in the game because I have some things to say. I feel like I have, again, with some of the podcasts, you guys know, long-time listeners, you know where we stand on players, you know where we stand on certain situations. We don't have to stand here and talk about Mings. We don't have to stand here and talk about Ross Barkley. You guys know where we stand. But there are things to be said about that substitution. That will happen later. But first, Dan, that red card, I mean, what is John Stones thinking? Because as Darren Bent rightfully pointed out in the studio, he's going nowhere. Ramsey's the only Villa player upfield. He's going wide. Now, listen, I am clearly not John Stones because I'm sat recording this podcast, right? But you just show them out to the line. That's what you do there. It's easy. It's literally textbook stuff. And what's really worrying about it actually is obviously everyone's talking about how he kind of takes him out at knee height. Jacobs, like he's like Air Jordan there. He's like midair, right? if he's on the ground, he's gone at the hip. Like
Mate, there was a gimme there for Air Jacob. Come on,
there really was Air Jacob. I can't believe I didn't do that. Oh my god,
it was
Air Jacob. Have I got some Air Jacobs in my room? I got. No, we'll get the. I haven't shown you these, Dan.
Oh,
I got a flex on the pod.
An unfortunate colour for today's podcast, isn't it? Really,
they're Air Stones. That's what they are. They're Air Johns. Air Johns, the knockoffs that you get on Camden Market. This podcast has divulged into something else, again. Air Jacob. We need to make that. We're going to make that. That's the thing. Air Jacob, right? And I mean, 100% a red card. I've got mates who are Manchester City fans who are harassing me right now. I can see on Snapchat, but that's a red card. I can't believe there's any sort of doubt because, of course, things look worse in slow mo. But you don't put studs on someone's thigh and not get a red card. Like I can't understand it. And what's just as infuriating as well is it seemed like Manchester City were out to get Air Jacob down. Because Kyle Walker, like 5 minutes before, gives him an elbow in the face as he's cutting in front of him. Again, if that's not a yellow card, it has to at least be a free kick. Because we're talking about the Zinchenko challenge. I say challenge again. Jacob doesn't touch him. He slides next to him. And there's all of a sudden a free kick awarded. So we won't dwell too much on VAR, Dan, because I know you hate it when I do that. But some questionable decisions today, to say the least.
Yeah, for sure, mate. For sure. It's one of those where it was, I'm going to say nice in a weird way to have two red card decisions that were just red cards.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, it's like no debate, no VAR, just well, obviously VAR was included, but like no need for like extent. Like it's just two simple red card decisions, both of them as red cards as they come. Matty Cash just loses the ball and does that thing that all players will do and will continue to do to all player times, where they just like zone out. That peripheral vision just goes. It's like I must win the ball back. I must do everything I can to win the ball back, and they just hunt it down and bang, just hit the first thing they see. And obviously Matty's on yellow, and he goes, and you can see in his face he knew he'd messed up. He knew it was a red card. He walks off, and he looked very glum about it. And Matty's a player who's had a fine season. He stepped up really well. He's learning. It's his first season from the Championship. These are mistakes that hopefully he will make once and never again. It's good that they're coming now when there's not much to play for. Villa can move on. Matty has that learning curve. We've now got to go forward with poor Elmo at right back.
I think that's something we need to talk about at the end of the podcast, Dan. That's because surely that can't happen.
Well, mate, this is now. Carney was on the bench. Shout out to Carney Chukwuemeka. It was good, really good to see that he made the bench. Really good to see that JJ's getting more minutes. And it's like now it seems, and look, Villa fans are sort of, and this will transition nicely, mate, as I'm going to hand it back to you on Barkley on this point, because Villa fans are rightly aggrieved that Barkley's getting all these minutes and we have all these youngsters that are absolutely tearing up. They put 6 past the baggies the other day. They've got some really nice results recently. Got all these fantastic youngsters waiting in the wings. I mean, Jacob's younger brother, Aaron, which is going to cause a hell of a lot of confusion once he enters the football world, and another Aaron
really is.
But he's absolutely tearing up, winning the Premier League 2 Player of the Month. Big congratulations to him. But there will be almost certainly a clause in the loan deal with Ross Barkley that says he has to play an X amount of games in the season, if not, if he's fit, an X amount of minutes per game. There is no There is no way that Chelsea will loan out a player of his quality to a fellow Premier League rival without guarantees in certain elements. And I don't think that Dean Smith, based on his work rate, based on his just general output, is going to continue to put that player in the game by choice. I think there is a sort of, there will inevitably be, as there are in 99% of the loan deals that go on around the world, I imagine, a guarantee from one club to the other that that player is going to get an agreed amount of playing time. So that's why we're seeing Ross, I imagine. But let's see Kane Kessler at right back. Why? Like, there is no... for me, Dan, I hadn't took it back to you on Barkley. There's no better time to introduce players, young players now, when Villa are comfortable. We're realistically not going to get Europe. We're realistically not going to get relegated. There are no fans in the stadium. It's just not a free hit, because there's no game in the Premier League that is a free hit, but there's never been a less stressful situation for a young player to step in and make your debut, I don't think.
No, of course not. And listen, again, just to kind of let you guys know again where I stand on Barkley, there's clearly so much more to this. There has to be. Like, it's never just as simple as player good, player bad. That doesn't happen overnight. That happens through injuries. That happens through weeks off with coronavirus. That happens with being fearful of pulling that hamstring again, and this is an argument I constantly find myself in, constantly with everyone. Oh, he doesn't put himself about the pitch enough. I completely agree, but this is his living. Like, this is how he makes his bread. If he is fearful of accelerating too hard, of changing direction too quickly, because that's how he injured himself against Southampton. He turned too quick, and then he's pulled himself, and then he's out. That's the reality of it. These athletes aren't always as blessed to be someone like Tyrone Mings, who, I mean, yeah, he's gone through some horrific injuries in his career, but with his time at Villa, remained relatively unscathed. I mean, you think of the greatest, right? You think of Lionel Messi. He's been out at least one time injured every season, sometimes for 4 months at a time. And you have to, I'm sure there are times where, he's running at someone like Marcelo and thinking, oh God, I need to slow up here. I'm getting old. Messi is getting on. They have to, the bodies of these players really do have to be considered. You can't argue that Ross Barkley hasn't been performing enough, right? He just hasn't. But you're going to be really surprised when I tell you that Ross Barkley is, in terms of shot creating actions, he's created 60 so far this season, an average of 4.53 per 90. He's averaging 36 live passes a game, which again seems surprising. But I mean, the metrics are up there, and of course, these are going to be taken from early season Ross Barkley, that kind of form where he was white hot. He was incredible. But there's a player in there. And there's, of course, as you say, Dan, there's stipulations as to whether how many minutes these players have to play, how many appearances they have to make, just like there are with visa contracts, right? Which is why we were constantly seeing Douglas Luiz last season when he wasn't good enough. But them minutes that he was afforded overall has helped him develop into a better player. Now, it's a bit different with Ross Barkley, right? Because Ross Barkley isn't a young prospect, and he isn't, fighting quite literally for his right to remain in the country. I understand there are two differences, right? But Ross, let's be real, right? Ross Barkley came to Villa on the premise that he's going to get in the England squad. And he's got to have seen Jesse Lingard and gone, Jesus Christ, I've got to up my game, right? Because let's be real, as much as I was really hoping that Villa signed Jesse Lingard, Dan, I've said this, I got so much stick for it on that transfer rumour mill, saying that I wanted Jesse. I took so many pelters in the comments, right? And look at me now. Okay, well, look at Jesse now. Jack mate's getting a tattoo because of him, for goodness sake. He scored 8 goals since January. And what's Ross done? I know he's done nothing, but I just simply, I'm sorry, I've gone. This is not where I wanted to take this discussion about Ross Barkley. But there's no way he goes home after training. There's no way he goes home tonight after this game and seriously looks himself in the mirror and goes, "Yeah, I'm happy with my performance." And I feel like sometimes Villa fans forget that these players are very critical of their own performance. The management are going to be very critical of his performance. But the point I wanted to lead on from is that it's a positive change that Dean makes. Villa are chasing the game. Villa have nothing to lose because they're already in a position where they are a goal behind. It was the right decision for me to bring Ross Barkley on, because there's no way you bring on Carney in that situation, which, by the way, amazing Carney is in the squad. I thought, listen, with 11 men on the pitch for both sides, Carney gets 5 minutes at the end because Jacob got 15 minutes at the end against the Etihad, against City at the Etihad, and nearly scored. And I think as well, we've spoke about this before, Dan, in terms of player recruitment and finding a player that has a template and using that to then scout further players. Carney isn't built in the same mold as Ross Barkley. He's this, I want to say, Pogba-esque midfielder, this deep-lying playmaker that there aren't really too many of in the game, to be honest. From what I've seen, anyway, that is where I would attribute his strengths at being. He's a goal scorer. He's a strong lad. He's relatively tall for his age, and he's comfortable receiving the ball on the half turn. So this isn't necessarily the Ross Barkley replacement. Aaron Ramsey, on the other hand, may well be, but it's interesting because it possesses with these guys. Surely you don't start Elmo against West Brom. Surely not. Surely you can't. Like I'm on my knees right now. I'm on my knees. And I might be at the game as well, so I might be reporting. And if Elmo's there, I'm going to be very upset, Dan, because listen, Elmo has provided some iconic moments in a Villa shirt, right? But for every one iconic moment, there's been at least 3 back post headers towards the opponent's striker that has led to a goal. And West Brom, sure, they're going down, right? But they aren't going down without a fight. And Callum Robinson, I mean, it just goes to show you if a club actually implements a strategy whereby they look at promoting the youth, like we've literally just spoke about, Dan, Callum Robinson probably plays for Villa in the Championship. Like, do you know what I mean? He's been in white hot form at the moment. Again, that's a whole other story, but genuinely fearing this West Brom game, Dan, which is something I will cover in a preview, probably at some point tomorrow for you guys, depending on when you're listening to this. But I feel like it's difficult, Dan, because if you look at the table, of course, Villa are safe. Just as I pull the table up now, because I believe we're on 43 points, sat in 11th position, which again, but looking at Villa's fixtures, Dan, it's very feasible that Villa don't win a game for the rest of the season. Villa are on 44 points. So, most seasons you're safe on 44 points. But you have to look at the fixtures. You have Crystal Palace, you have West Brom, you've got Everton twice, you've got Chelsea.
United.
It's incredibly tough. So do we have Spurs?
Wait, no.
No, we've already played Spurs, didn't we? I think. I don't know. But
no, we don't. Oh no, we do. We've got them away. Oh
yeah, you're right. We do have them away. But is it unfair on some of these lads as well to kind of throw them in at Manchester United at home and go, well, go on then, Carney. Okay, you're going up against Pogba, who I have just compared your game to. Like, don't disappoint. Don't let me down. Like, I've pinned this expectation on you. We've not even spoke about the goals, Dan, and that's the thing. And again, I kind of alluded to it earlier with the sort of lack of support from Villa's midfield, really highlighted in that first goal because Villa dropped deep and they really have to. But that becomes less of an issue when you're more of a cohesive unit. The midfield didn't get the memo. Wonderful little cut back to Foden. And again, Foden, magnificent talent. Second goal, got to admit, Dan, bit of a howler was that. Not, for Emmy, no one is covers themselves in glory for this goal. Mings is yards away from Rodri, who again, a player I really like. It doesn't get more Guardiola than Rodri. Like, it really doesn't. If you think Guardiola is about passing, no. He is about Rodri. Rodri is Guardiola in the modern game as a player. And Emmy doesn't cover himself in glory. But again, he's been fantastic. I can't really, criticize him too much. He's a goalkeeper that likes to command his area. So you expect him to come for crosses, just not them ones. You know that he's going to have stayed behind with big cuts, who also has a skin fade, by the way. Neil, I see you. We're rocking the same trim. They're gonna have stayed behind after this game and worked on that, because that's what Emmy's like. He's almost psychotic in the way he trains. We know after his interview after that Southampton game, I think the West Ham game, sorry, after Messi Lingard proved me right. But I mean, Dan, it's not all bad, because as we say, Chukwuemeka on the bench. We've got West Brom next. Do we see Kane Kessler? Is Jack Grealish going to be fit? Probably not. These are the $1 million questions, Dan, aren't they? Really, I can't do that. How many times we just have to act in the previews as if Jack Grealish just doesn't exist, because how many times have we gone, and he'll be fit, and he's just not, which is frustrating. But there's a lot on this game, because you don't want to see Villa go 8 games without a win, Dan, before the end of the season. And of course, 3 points would be massive for Big Sam. And I wouldn't put it past West Brom at the moment to get a point at least against us on Sunday.
No, for sure, mate. And it's, perhaps the only reason I wanted to see Carney come on and make his debut today is because I've seen prodigious young Aston Villa players make their debut against Manchester City before, and it turned out quite well. I remember one slightly floppy-haired youngster coming on in a 4-0 defeat at the Etihad some years ago. Jack, I think his name was. And that worked out pretty well. I was like, the stars were aligning, and I was like, go on, just for the narrative, just do it for the poetry, man. But it wasn't to be. No, but it would be interesting to see what kind of approach that we take, because Kane has had a fine season for the under-23s at right back. I feel that so much of this current crop and the attention on this current crop of Villa youngsters is attributed to the players in forward positions, sort of starting with Carney, and then you go to Aaron Ramsey, you've got Louis Barry, and the like, that are doing their bit, Philogene, but it goes on and on and on in that sort of those offensive positions. But you've got to look at what Kane Kessler has been doing from right back and really owe him some credit for that. And I think at some points it would be really nice. And mate, I don't know if I'm slightly being a bit pie in the sky here. Maybe I am, but I just would love to see what he could offer compared to a player, because we've seen Elmo being criticised for this and being too static. He hasn't got the legs that he used to, doesn't play with the energy, doesn't get up and down that touchline like a modern fullback needs to. And whilst he has his qualities, Kessler can bring all of those elements that Elmo can't. And yes, he'll bring a naivety, and yes, he'll bring the occasional mistake. But you've got to take a chance on this current crop. And you mentioned Callum Robinson there, Dan, and the reason why we're worried about him coming back to haunt us is because we never gave him that chance. We never gave Rushian Hepburn Murphy his chance. We never gave Graham Burke his chance. We never gave Ender Stevens his chance. That crop of Villa
and
players...
Kins, shout out to Kins, friend of the pod.
Of course. Luke Kins, a friend of the pod. We never gave him his chance. There's a whole crop of Villa youngsters there that never got their chance. And we've finally got this next generation coming through with so much prospect, like so much hope around them that, yes, these can be the next great, because it's only Jack that's come through and made an impact in our first team since Gabby. You've got like 2 or 3 players, if that, this century that have come through and genuinely impacted this Villa team. So why not see it? Why not give these boys a chance, man? I don't think there's a better time for it.
We've propped up the Championship with players, man, over the past 10 years. We really have. Like, you know, look at the likes of Barry Bannon, the likes of Andy Vyman, Nathan Baker, Kieran Clark spent some time down there as well. I could genuinely list players forever. But I can't because I haven't mentioned XG yet, Dan. You thought I could go this long? No, you guys are wrong. You guys are wrong. XG of 0.74 for Aston Villa compared to an XG of 1.15 from Manchester City. And listen, 8 shots from Villa, 3 on target, 3 shots from City, 13 shots from City, with 3 on target. The XG, it flatters Villa almost, because it's a brilliant goal that John McGinn scores. A difficult one as well, kind of takes it. It was very Tottenham-esque in his first goal in the Premier League.
Yeah.
If we take you back to last season. Just kind of brushing it in. It's a difficult chance to finish. Let's not undersell that. But for all the possession, for all of the passing, to only have had 3 shots on target, we'll class that as a win. Big game, of course, coming up on Sunday. I will be with you previewing that. Hopefully there's no more Super League news that will bury the content like I'm sure this podcast will. So if you've enjoyed this podcast, if you've watched it all the way through, let us know by hitting the like button and commenting below telling us you watched to the end. And if you guys aren't subscribed, you need to be subscribed. That's why you guys aren't seeing these videos. 55% of you guys who watch these podcasts regularly are not subscribed. Now, we would genuinely take over the world if you guys subscribed. Like, the growth would be exponential. We just need you guys to hit the subscribe button if you enjoy what you're seeing on YouTube. If you're listening on iTunes, if you're listening on Spotify, leave a review. Let us know. Come back to the YouTube video as well in the comments to let us know you listen on there. It's always nice to see where you guys are listening from, because it's not always as easy to kind of interact with you guys on the audio platforms. With that being said, if you do want to interact with Dan and I more, follow us on Twitter. Dan is at Wiseman Football without the vowels in football, and I am at Dan Morgie34, where you get various life updates, football analysis, and just, I mean, from me, a lot of comic book movie stuff. I'm not going to lie, but that's...
What more could you want? What more could you want?
What more could you want? So as I say, if you enjoyed, like, comment, subscribe, and up the Villa.